This video is about earthquake safety in RVs. We live full-time in our RV, and when we're not traveling, we live in an RV park in Southern California. When you think about Southern California, there's probably two things that might come to mind, especially if you're an RVer, and that is fires. If you've watched some of our previous videos, you'll know that not too long ago we evacuated for the airport fire. And this fire was the second fire that we had to evacuate for. This video is going to deal with another thing that we experience frequently in Southern California, and that is earthquakes. Where we live in Southern California, we experience a lot of earthquakes that are 4.0 or greater. And when you have earthquakes of that magnitude, you will most likely feel them in your RV. And so it's a good idea after one of those to do some things to make sure that you had no damage from the earthquake. If you get a 3.5 or less, most likely you won't feel it unless it's right on top of you. And this most recent earthquake that we had, which was a 4.0, happened at 3:30 in the morning. And so we didn't do anything, we just rode it out. I mean, if you live in an RV, you know that when you're driving down the road, it's like a rolling earthquake. And so when we got up in the morning, we did a few things. The first thing we did was to check our jacks, because that's usually where we'll have an issue. And we have the leveling jacks that are electronic, and so I'm going to check now. You probably heard it that one of the jacks is loose. We also check the slide out jacks. We have one here under the passenger side slide. We have one under our bedroom slide and one under the bunk room slide. And check to make sure that those haven't come loose. And then this is the jacks on the front side. Generally, these don't loosen up. We also check the tongue jack here, and that seems pretty tight. My husband will also check he's got our propane bottles covered, but he will check our propane to make sure that there's no leaks, because that could happen if you had a severe enough earthquake. This is the slide out jack that's underneath our bedroom. And I checked that, and this is the slide out jack that's under the bunk room. And I've checked that, and it's okay. You also might just kind of look at your water connection, your sewer connection, and your electrical connection. Another thing my husband will do is climb up onto the roof and check our solar panels. As you can see, we're under a tree, and we have a lot of acorns that fall out of that tree. And if it was a severe enough earthquake, we might get some twigs. We've cut that tree back quite a bit. When we first moved into this space, the branches were hanging over. But he will check to make sure we don't have any cracks or anything on the solar panels, on the slide outs, and just check the roof in general to make sure everything's okay. We have had one solar panel crack before when a rock hit it, so we always check them to make sure. On the inside, we generally walk around to make sure that nothing has fallen. Most of the pictures that we have mounted on the wall are up there pretty good. They don't come down even when we travel. And we don't use any glass frames. This is a plexiglass frame here. So most of the stuff that we put on the walls is stuff that will stay up pretty well. I don't think we've had anything come down. We've got a picture of our dog down there, and we take that one down when we travel because it's likely to come down. I think that's the only thing. But it's a good idea to walk around and just make sure that nothing has moved or shifted inside the RV. There are a few things that you should also do in preparation in case you are in an area where you have a larger earthquake and you lose power, or you may be without water. One of the things we do is we have a generator in a backup. It wouldn't run our air conditioning, but it would take care of all of our other electrical and help keep our solar and our lithium batteries working. And so we always make sure that we have a tank full of gas both in the truck and also in the generator, and have some spare gas in case we have to go for a while without electricity. We also fill up our water tanks, keep them full, make sure that you have plenty of water, because in where we live, our water is in a well, and so in order to pump it out and pump it up to the spaces, they rely on electricity. And so when our electric is out throughout the whole park, so is our water. So that's why we keep a full tank of water in the trailer. And then we also have some 5-gallon jugs that we can go get water elsewhere if we needed to. I also recommend that you have some bookmarked websites and some apps that would help you in the event you did have an earthquake. This is the Caltech site, and it's feeds from the USGS as well, lists Nevada and California earthquakes, and you can get a lot of information there. There's the address down below. I would also suggest some apps. There are quite a few. If you have an iPhone, you can search under recent earthquakes, and there's quite a few different ones that you can have. The one that's used most often in California, I believe, is called MyShake. But we have this earthquake app here on ours, and we monitor that whenever we feel shaking, and that way we know what's going on. And a lot of people ask us, aren't you scared to be in an earthquake when you're in an RV? Well, we know our RV is going to handle it fairly well as long as we're not a 7.0 right on the epicenter, because these things roll down the road all the time. It's like a rolling earthquake. And if you've been RVing for a while, when you open up your slides and you go in and you see some of your stuff is tossed around, then you realize that they do shake a lot when we're driving. So I'm not scared. I'd probably be more scared when we lived in a sticks and bricks. I was definitely scared more because we were on the 3rd floor of an apartment complex. We had a 6.0, and I was very scared then. And I feel a lot safer being in an RV now. We've had probably in the last 3 months, probably a lot of 4.0s or greater, nothing over 5.0. But as long as you take all the precautions that I've mentioned and you do all the checkup afterwards, then you should be fairly safe. We've lived in tornado country, we've lived in freezing cold weather country, and we've lived here with fire and earthquake danger, and I think I'd rather be in a place with earthquake danger because I know the RV can withstand it, unless it's a really bad one, and then you probably wouldn't do very well in a building or in an RV. Another tip that I would suggest in preparing for an earthquake is to always have plenty of bottled water. When you have an earthquake and you lose water, it's not safe to drink the water that's in most RV parks. We do have a filter on ours, but we don't ever drink it. We always have bottled water. We've got a couple of pallets outside that we keep. And so I would suggest always having an emergency supply of water. When we had our big 5th wheel and we had the storage underneath, we used to keep 4 or 5 pallets in there that we would buy at Costco. I would also suggest having some good supply of food that you know won't spoil if you have to go without being able to go to the grocery store. We always make sure we have enough food for our dog, and we always make sure that we have enough food that we could survive. Most likely, if we had a major earthquake and we could leave here, we would probably head to Arizona, where our son lives. And we didn't do that in the fire this last time because we thought we might be back in sooner, but it turned out that we were out 9 days. And then we said to ourselves, you know, we could have just gone to Arizona and spent time with the grandkids, it would have been just as hot as it was here. So think about things, have an emergency checklist, just like in the fire video I did. I suggested that you have an emergency checklist of things that you need, things that you feel that you have to check on when you do have a natural disaster. I know this is really important if you're living in hurricane country, and my thoughts and prayers are with all of those people. I have some family in Florida right now that's in the path of the hurricane there, and so I thought this was an important video if you're living in California, especially for earthquake safety. We don't get too many hurricanes here. We did get a really good Tropical Storm Hillary, not too long ago. I have some videos back in our older archives on that. But I hope this has been helpful to you to remember, if you live in an RV, even if you live in a house, to always be prepared, because you never know what kind of natural disaster might happen.